So, the digital renaissance is the greatest threat to representative democracy since the invention of the printing press. Now, that's quite a big statement, especially bearing in mind what you've just heard. But I'm going to tell you why I believe this to be true. So in January last year, I received a phone call from this guy. This is John Bercow. He is the Speaker of the House of Commons. And he asked me to be a commissioner on his commission for looking at digital democracy, looking at how Parliament could use digital tools to better engage with everybody. And so we spent a year taking evidence from people from all backgrounds, all around the world, having a look at what was going on. And yeah, we found out that, of course, it's all about kittens and selfies and food, of course. But also, everyone is passionate about issues. They really care about things that matter to them. And we also found that there were tons of things being built but not by Parliament and not by government, but they were being built by little civic hacking groups, by volunteers, by people who were just driven to distraction by the fact that they couldn't engage properly with politics. But the problem is that these people were engaging with the already engaged, the people that were already looking to engage with politicians and with democracy. Not with all of the other people that were just passionate about their issues, but really it's about kittens and selfies. And as we looked further, it became more obvious that the reason why things are not working at the moment is that because the whole system is built for a world that just no longer exists. If you think about what used to happen, so like men would jump onto their horses in the villages, and then they would ride to Parliament, and they'd take all of the wishes of the villagers to Parliament. And then from Parliament, they'd jump back on their horse, and they'd go all the way back to the village, and they'd tell them what was happening in Parliament. That world doesn't exist anymore. And so what we have to do now is ignore these, forget the horses. We need to start riding the algorithms. And by that, I mean that the information needs to be free to move around the internet. And that depends on open data. And I'm sure that many of you have heard a lot about open data and well marked up data, standards. But I don't know if any of you understand what it means with regards to democracy and why it is so important. So I'm just going to explain it through the medium of blue trousers and chickens. So you know when you go online and you're shopping for a pair of blue trousers, those blue trousers are going to follow you around the internet for at least the next 48 hours, right? Everywhere you go, Facebook, email, everywhere, there are those blue trousers. Now, imagine you are this lady, you love chickens, your livelihood depends on chickens, chickens are your pets, you love chickens. And there is a bill going through Parliament that is about to make the ownership of chickens illegal. At the moment, this lady is going to get her blue trousers put into the space, but nothing about this bill in Parliament on chickens. And what is more important, or just as important as shopping? Knowing what is happening in your Parliament in a representative democracy. And so the first reason why the digital renaissance is a challenge to representative democracy is because the data needs to be open, and it isn't. I'd like to introduce you to my daughter. This is Amy on the radio. Now, she represents a group of people that I often speak about, and I refer to as the 97ers. Now, the difference between the 97ers and everybody that has gone before them is that, I should explain who they are. They are the kids who were born in 1997 and after. And the difference between them and everybody else is that they have grown up with social media. And this affects their lives in so many ways. But for representative democracy, and for the purpose of this discussion, the most important way that it affects their lives is that they have grown up knowing how to create, curate, and influence communities. And they don't know any different. Now, if you imagine that they can go on, they can put a photo on Instagram, they can tweet, they can do whatever they like, and in instant time they can see how people react to that. They also learn that if they change their message very slightly, suddenly people are going to agree with what they're saying, or they're going to retweet what they say, or they're going to like it. Never before has any generation had that kind of immediate feedback to what they think and feel. And so now, if you imagine that these kids are going to be coming out into the real world now, because this is my other daughter, this is Jess. She was born in 1997. She's about to leave school. She's 17. She's about to find a career, and she's going to go off and do it. And this is not just children in the West. This is around the world. These kids have grown up knowing how to build and influence their communities. And they're going to become our teachers, our politicians, our window cleaners, our lighting designers. They are going to go into all sorts of careers with this knowledge, and they know no different. I don't know if any of you know Zoella. She's a British YouTuber. Very successful, young. She has 2.5 million followers on Twitter. She has 6 million followers on YouTube. And 12 million hits per month. Now, right now, she's talking about the smoky eye. But in a few years, when she starts talking about things that matter to her, so when she starts talking about the refugees, when she starts talking about Syria, or when she becomes a parent, when she starts talking about the challenges that she faces as a parent, how is she then going to be using her influence? And so really, she becomes a better representative of her generation, and sometimes, maybe even of us, than the politicians are that are sitting in government at the moment. And so the second challenge from the digital renaissance to representative democracy is this generation, and they're not going away. And now you've met my daughters. This is who they want to vote for. They love Obama, right? And it's everybody knows that he's very good at marketing himself, or his team is very good at marketing himself. He knows how to use social media. And that's not what's really interesting, well, not to me. What's interesting is that they don't care whether he is the Prime Minister of the UK or the President of the United States. They just want him to represent them. And so if you start to think about that in terms of geography, they know about him. Why shouldn't they be voting for him? This is a map of Munich, so I couldn't find one of Berlin, I'm really sorry, by Dave Troy. And what he does is he maps cities by the conversations that are happening online. Now, at the moment, he's mapping cities, but when you map the world, can you imagine those blue spaces or the pink spaces or the green, those conversations are going to be joined up. The map is going to be very, very different, but those are where the communities are. That is where people are talking, that is where the experts are being listened to, and that's where people are influencing. And so the greatest challenge, or the third challenge, I guess, not necessarily the greatest, to representative democracy is the fact that it removes physical borders. Land and sea doesn't matter. Maps really look like this now. The world looks like this. And when you are representing people in a democratic way in a world that looks like this, it's a very different space. So we thought that space, which I know we've been talking about today, was the final frontier. But it's not. It's the digital horizon, because we don't know what's out there. And we can't just take a telescope and have a look at what's coming next. And so, in fact, really, we're all politicians. But let's not be politicians. Let's be emperors. But by being heads of state, there comes responsibility. Because representative democracy is broken. And when democracy breaks, dictators thrive. So we need to become emperors of passions, whatever we are passionate about, our issues that we care about. And we need to step up. And we need to teach, and we need to document, and we need to share. But we also need to be emperors of compassion. Because not knowing what's coming next is very, very scary. And for the 97ers and the kids that come after them, there is no status quo. They are naive super influencers in an unmapped space. And so we need to step up. We need to throw a cloak over the puddle of democracy so that they can make their own rules and they can step forward and they can start to create a more connected, compassionate world. Thank you.